Dave. My talk today is on identity theft, on how to avoid it, and also some suggestions to protect yourself. Sorry for the little thing popping up there. I can't shut it off. Can't seem to anyway. I was a victim of identity theft a few years ago and put this presentation together and have been showing it over the last several years, but I do update it on a regular basis. And it's not going to the next slide here, so let's see why. There we go. What is identity theft? According to the nonprofit Identity Theft Resource Center, identity theft is subdivided into 4 categories: financial, criminal, identity cloning, and business and commercial identity theft. And it's been changing over the last several years, but identity theft may be used to facilitate crimes, including illegal immigration, terrorism, and espionage. Identity theft may also be a means of blackmail. There's also cases of identity cloning to attack payment systems, including medical insurance. The Federal Trade Commission website is probably the leader in consumer information on identity theft, and it's a site that you should be seeing and take a look at when you can. Okay, ways identity theft can occur. Number 1, somebody steals your wallet or a purse containing your personal information and credit and bank cards or items with your social security number. Purse snatching and pickpockets. I'm going to show you a couple of videos showing how easily this is done and how often it's done. RFID, radio frequency identification, wireless credit card theft. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because RFID and the new credit cards that you're getting with chips in it are much different. The two of them are different, and I'm going to talk about the differences in them. Also, stealing your mail, including bank and credit card statements, pre-approved credit offers, new checks and tax information. And then watching you writing checks or checking your mailbox. Okay, thieves can complete a change of address form to divert mail to another location. They can rummage through your trash, which is called dumpster diving. They can find personal information in your homes. You have somebody come in to do some carpet cleaning or fix something in your house. They can snoop around and find some personal information open on your desk or on the table or on the kitchen table where you stack your bills. They can get information when you're not looking. They can either write it down, take a picture with their phone camera, or just steal an invoice or a bill from your desk. They can use personal information individuals share on the internet. So things that you share, they can be using those for to steal your identity. Credit card skimming, and we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later on as well. Continuing, sending emails posing as legitimate companies or government agencies in which you do business. It's called phishing. They can send you an email, and then you respond to that, and it doesn't actually go to the company. It goes to the thieves. They can get information from your workplace. A business record theft by stealing files out of offices where a person is a customer, an employee, a patient, a student, or even bribing an employee who has access to personal files. Or they can hack into the electronic files. And then, of course, eavesdropping on public transactions to obtain personal data. That's called shoulder surfing. Drive-by farming, P-H-A-R-M-I-N-G. That means driving by your house and tapping into your Wi-Fi, parking out in front or parking nearby. Browse social networks, Facebook, Twitter, other social networking sites, online for personal details that have been posted by you or by other users. Simply research about the victim in the government registers at the internet or on the internet and Google and so on. So simple. Every once in a while, do a search on your name. If you have a unique name like I have, it's a lot easier, except there's a dance called the Poplock. which has a lot of posts, but still, you want to check your name in Google and other search engines on a regular basis. Okay, I want to show you a video on 5 ways to steal an ID.
Paying for gas may cost more than just $2.97 per gallon. It may also cost you your identity, and it can happen just like this. It's called skimming, and it's incredibly lucrative. In one case, 3 Los Angeles thieves netted $2 million. How does skimming actually work?
So when you take your credit card and you put it in the machine, the reader captures the electronic information on the magnetic strip on the back. What happens with skimming is 2 copies of that information are made. One to process your transaction, one for the bad guys to steal.
ID theft affects 9 million Americans each year, and skimming, which can happen at the gas pump, in stores, or even at the ATM, is just one of our top 5 ingenious ways fraudsters can steal your identity. Number 2, medical ID theft, which is on the rise and scary. Thieves use your ID to gain access to doctors, dentists, prescriptions, and procedures, and then send you or your insurer the bill. This scheme is not only a risk to your financial health, it could cost you your life.
And someone thinks, you've had a procedure performed or you've had medication administered that you haven't, that poses a real threat.
Number 3, social networking abuse. According to one survey, 1 in 5 users has encountered identity theft-related scams. When you're fanning or tweeting, you may be giving away great clues to ID thieves known as pretexters or phishers. They claim to be organizations you trust, or they pretend to be you. That's source number 4. It is surprisingly common. Family and friends and people that we trust could be the ones taking our identity. How?
Well, at work, in the home, in your college dormitory, any place you've got your information. One of your coworkers can go through your wallet, go through your purse, grab your credit card information, grab your bank card information, and steal it. And it happens all the time. It's one of the most common ways that identities are stolen.
And finally, number 5, dumpster diving, where thieves find a treasure trove of information. Every year, each of us throws away 175 pounds of paper, much of which still includes our personal information. And for the determined ID thief, dumpster diving gets the job done. For Yahoo Finance, I'm Farnoosh Sharabi.
Okay, there's some misconceptions about ID theft. Here's 4 key misconceptions or perceptions. Consumers are helpless to protect themselves. Consumers bear the brunt of the financial losses from identity fraud. Actually, the businesses generally bear the brunt of it. It is a trickle down, so you pay higher prices. Seniors are most frequent targets of fraud operators, and we'll see some numbers on that. And internet use increases the risk of identity theft and identity fraud. Okay, this is the figures for 2014, because we're still in 2015, so they haven't been put together, but this is from the Consumer Sentinel Network identity theft complaints by victim's age from January 1st to the end of the year, so the full year of 2014. You can see that 20 to 60 bears the brunt of it. And then the higher end, us older folks, and then those 19 and under are still a fairly decent size, but it's still not as much as those who are earning money and still in the income bracket, the income earning bracket. From 2012 to 2014, you can see it hasn't changed a whole bunch. And it continues to be 70 and over, and 19 and under are in the 6-7%. The rest are anywhere from 13 to 18%, and they've been varying a little bit as the older people now are using the internet, and although that doesn't really have a lot to do with it, they have been more of a target. This is a pretty good chart of who's most at risk. Actually, the number one person that's most at risk are children. They're 35 times more often than adults. People with personal information on their social media profile are second. Smartphone owners have a 33% higher rate of ID fraud than the general public. Homeowners or households with incomes greater than 150,000 are seventh, are the lowest, but also the people of dead people, believe it or not, are fourth in this list. College students are fifth, and those breaches are sixth. Yeah, let me go to the next slide, see if I can. There we go. Okay, Florida ranks as the top state in the U.S. for ID theft. And this is in here because I do a lot of my presentations in the state of Florida because I am in Florida. But in a state-by-state comparison for fraud, and you can see the website at the bottom, identitytheftsolutiontips.com, they do a study, and you can do studies for look for figures for your state as well. But Florida is number one, Georgia is number two. And we're just talking about identity fraud. Florida, again, tops it state by state with 37,000 complaints in 2014. That equates to about 186.3 reports per 100,000 people. Coming in second is the state of Washington with 154.8 complaints. Here's a list just showing, you can briefly peruse it and maybe find your state. Hopefully you can read that, but it's from the Sentinel Network, and it's in a report they do every year, and Florida it shows at the top, and then at the bottom are the Dakotas in both fraud and other complaints and identity theft. Here's Florida broken down by counties and areas. The Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach area is the highest, and the area where I'm in is 39th in the Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton metropolitan statistical area. So these are nice, and they have them for each of the states, so you can see where your location is as far as identity theft related consumer complaints. Okay, farsing overtaking phishing as an online identity theft threat. Scammers have discovered social media. To them, email phishing scams are so 2009. Really aggressive identity thieves are now using social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to ensnare victims. It turns out it's easier and a lot more lucrative. Social media users are always getting friend requests. Assuming that the person is who they say they are without confirming is very dangerous. So you need to be very careful on who you accept as friends. Make sure that it is actually the friend. One of the big problems in the community I'm in is a lot of the people are on Facebook and their friends are getting a duplicate request to be friends from someone who is not them, but even has their picture and their information. So you need to be very careful. And you might even send an email to somebody saying, did you just ask to be a friend, instead of just go ahead and accepting it. Here's another way in which ID theft can occur, and it's from purse snatching. This is only 13 seconds, so keep your eye on the lady at the bottom left and her cart. You'll see the lady to the right going over. She's grabbing the purse, and she's gone. That quick. The woman never knew that her purse was taken. Here's another instance of something similar to that.
Covering Seminole County, a story that should make any woman keep a closer eye on her purse.
Yeah, right now police are looking for a brazen thief who took advantage of a customer right in the middle of a busy Publix grocery store in the heart of Altamont Springs. Channel 9's Bianca Castro shows us video of the crime that police say could have happened to anyone.
The victim did what so many women do when they shop. She put her purse right here in the shopping cart. She turned around for just a minute, and when she turned back, her purse was gone. Watch the guy in the white shirt approach the cart from the bottom of the screen. He snatches the woman's purse as she browses the cosmetic aisle. He even turns around and walks past her again with the purse tucked underneath his arm. It only takes her 5 seconds to realize it's gone. She runs after him, but it's too late.
She just took her eyes off from it, and it just gave that single split-second opportunity for him to grab it.
The crime happened last Wednesday at this Publix store off Altamont Springs' main drag. Cameras captured the crook walking into the store around 6 o'clock that evening. And here he is again, running back out with his loot. He outran the victim and 2 Publix employees and disappeared into this neighboring apartment complex. Regulars at the store were surprised by the crime.
Wow, I need to be more careful with my purse, and because I kind of do similar things, or maybe sometimes I even step away from my cart and my purse is in the cart. So.
The 68-year-old victim told us over the phone she was bending down for a $2 eyebrow pencil, but it cost her a $300 purse, a stack of credit cards, and $200 in cash. She says it's a tough lesson for all shoppers.
You're never expecting it, but those people are out there and they're just waiting for the opportunity.
In Altamont Springs, Seminole County, Bianca Castro, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Now, police don't believe the purse thief is connected to any other crimes in the area. You can get another look at the purse snatcher by watching the entire surveillance video on our website. Maybe you know who it is. Just log on to WFTV.com/videos. If you think you recognize this person, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers and Crime Line at 1-800-423-TIPS.
Next time you're in a supermarket or any kind of a market where they've got carts, notice how many women carry their purses in the cart instead of on their shoulder and connected to them. And if you're doing it, you want to start hanging on a little closer, because it's just a couple of seconds where you turn around and it's gone. And you may never see it again, and your identity can be stolen, as well as the money and anything else that you have in that purse. Okay, another big issue with identity theft are data breaches. There were over 3,000 reported in 2014. One single act of fraud exposed 104 million records. 4 hacking incidents alone exposed almost 650 million records. As you can see, the numbers are astronomical. So one thing you need to be very careful of is we'll give you some hints of what you can do. You can't prevent the breaches. Those are at companies, and they're being hacked. What you can do is kind of watch for things happening to you. Somebody's microphone is on. Data breaches, 2014. For the year, there were 783 breaches reported, with over 85 million records exposed. As of the 13th of this month, which is this week, there's been a total of 606 breaches with 175 million and a half records exposed. That's just this year up through this past week, up through the 13th of this week. From the time of 2005 to 2014, the number of breaches is over 5,000, with over 677 million, almost 678 million records exposed from those breaches. The types of breaches range from insider theft, hacking, data's on the move, which means people carrying a notebook with information and data on the notebook and lose the notebook or have it stolen. Accidental exposure, where somebody has exposed something on the web that shouldn't have been. A subcontractor or a third party getting the information, or employee just plain old negligence. And you can see how it's changed. Hacking has increased. Insider theft is still an important part of it. In fact, they all are important. They're all up there in pretty good percentages. So over the years, hacking has been a primary cause of data breach incidents, leading to an 8-year average of about 21.7%. Data on the move, a leading cause of breaches in 2007, 2008, ranked second with an average of 15.9%. This category includes storage devices or laptops lost in transit. That's what I mentioned. Insider theft and accidental exposure follow at just over 12%, and subcontractor third party follow at 11.2%. The Identity Theft Resource Center publishes a list, and this is updated every week. I just grabbed a couple of pages from a couple of weeks ago. The report date was 10/6/2015, and you can see total category at that point was 56 breaches just in the banking and credit financial. Business was 230, educational was 49, government and military was 45, and medical and healthcare was 211. And health and medical and healthcare is accounted for 35.7% so far during the year. Now, if you remember, I said the total breaches were 606 for the 13th. This was a week earlier than that. They were at 591. So it was 15 additional breaches just in the 1 week. This is page 9 of 19 pages of the 2015 data breaches, just to show you what they show. They'll show if they know what the number of exposed records are. They've got those listed. You'll see down towards the bottom. A high school had 2,800 records exposed. You can see what states, what category they were in, and then whether it was published or unknown as far as the number. But sometimes people get caught. 5 hackers were charged in the largest data breach scheme in the U.S. back in 2013. The men operated a prolific hacking organization that penetrated the secure computer networks of several of the largest payment processing companies, retailers, and financial institutions in the world, according to the indictment. There were 4 Russians and a Ukrainian were charged. Passwords. I just added this to my presentation this week. Splash Data, which makes password management applications, has released its annual list of the 25 worst passwords based on files containing 3.3 million passwords leaked in 2014. Here's the list. If you're using any of these, stop. Change your password. Using anything like these, stop. Change your password to something else more difficult. Password dues. Do vary it up. Using a different password for each online account. Whew. Boy, that's a lot of passwords, isn't it? You should use an online, or you should use one of the password management programs to keep track of it. Do get complicated with randomized numbers to make things complicated for cyber criminals. Do change your passwords every few months. Do stay off the list that I just showed you of the common ones that everybody uses. If it's on that list of common passwords, don't use it for your password. Capital letters, symbols, underscores, adding in these extra elements can help make any password more complex. Some password don'ts. Don't use a string of consecutive numbers or letters, especially starting with a 1 or an A. Don't include the name of an application like Adobe 123. Don't use your name, your address, or company information. Don't save your passwords within a document on your computer. If they can get into your computer, especially a lot of people use it as a text or a Word document or an Excel document, they can read those very easily and search within those documents on your computer, on your hard drive, and get those files, and they can get those passwords. If the word seems like something your kindergartner could guess, then you keep thinking of and come up with a different word. ATM scams are another way thieves get your identity. This was where banks were converted to steal bank customer IDs. Now, the technology to this has been changing, but this was 2014, 2015, where some banks in Tampa were clearly used to steal bank customer IDs. And I'm going to show you a few things on how that's done. Let's take a look at this video first.
I'm Brendan McLaughlin.
And I'm Linda Hurtado. Stealing right from under your nose. Hernando deputies just uncovered credit card skimmers placed on 4 gas pumps in Brooksville.
Yeah, these devices contain the stolen bank information of more than 340 people. Tonight, our Eric Waxler's taking action for you with how to protect yourself from devices like these, Eric.
Yeah, this is such a widespread crime these days. It used to be that the criminals would put some sort of device on the outside of the gas pump so that when you slide your card in, they get your numbers that way. But now, these skimmers were found inside, so there's no way to know they're there.
You just have to hope that you're lucky and it doesn't happen to you.
As Lisa Irwin fills her tank with gas, she isn't sure what to do to keep from becoming another victim of credit card fraud.
I only use my debit card, so that scares me. But I use mine at Target, too, when all that happens. And it was okay, so.
The Hernando County Sheriff's Office just got back an analysis on the 4 skimmers they found this week at the Hess Station on Cortez Boulevard and Spring Lake Highway. On those devices, 342 credit card numbers and the names to go with them.
This time, many of the potential victims may not even be aware that their cards have been compromised or even have any idea that they've even been used at this time.
The Sheriff's Office recommends getting a new card if you got gas here, but the good news, they say it's unlikely the cards were used because the skimmers found here didn't have wireless capability, meaning someone had to physically remove them to get the info, and luckily authorities found them first. Because these skimmers are inside the machines, there's not much you can do other than to pay inside. But to avoid trouble, experts say use a credit card rather than a debit card. Or if you use a debit card, never type in your PIN. Select the credit card option. They say cash is always the best option. No matter what, though, authorities say it's important to watch out for any fraudulent transactions on your accounts.
Just reporting that type of activity to law enforcement, reporting any kind of suspicious people around gas pumps and that type of thing is the best way we can fight this.
At this gas station, the manager tells me they have their own high-tech devices to fight the fraud. And at the station up in Brooksville, the reason those skimmers were spotted was because the manager does regular checks even inside the pumps. Anything to stay one step ahead of these criminals. Live in Pasco County, Eric Waxler, ABC Action News.
Now, the older skimmers, they mentioned in that article, in that newscast, that they used to put it over where you put your card in, and this was an example of what it looked like then, and you could just kind of wiggle it, or you could tell that if you really looked that it was not the original place where you put your card, and they would have a camera somewhere where they could watch you type in your PIN. This is all changed now. Now what they're doing is opening up the front of the gas pump or the ATM. They're getting into them, adding some cards, and then closing it up. Those cards are they have to either retrieve the card, or in some cases, they're so sophisticated that it sends a wireless signal. They're somewhere nearby, and as somebody uses their card, they're getting the information. So, like they mentioned at the one gas station, they were not sending a signal. There are some that do. So just because they catch the card doesn't mean they haven't gotten your information, or the authorities have caught the card. Doesn't mean the thieves have gotten your information. Some of the things that I'm seeing on some gas pumps lately are tape across where the door opens up on the front of a gas pump. But there's no way to know if it's an actual tape. Only the proprietors know that it's the actual one. You could see, oh, well, there's a tape there. Well, the thieves could be knowledgeable enough to put some kind of a tape on there and make it look like it's been checked. So you want to make sure that you are very careful. If you're using a debit card, use the credit function of it. So precautions at the ATM machine or the gas pumps and so on. Number one, cover your PIN number if you do use a PIN. Don't leave the ATM machine too early. Make sure that your purchase or your transaction has been completed and it goes back to the menu item. They say shake, rattle, and roll. That's when they used to use the cover to the slot. If you shake it and it rattles and it's loose, it's a good possibility it's not the original. However, with the new ones, as it was mentioned in that article, that no longer would work. But use ATM machines inside of banks if you can. Monitor your account activity. If you're using your cards regularly in an ATM machine or at debit as debit transactions wherever you go, or in your gas pumps, make sure you're monitoring your activity through your bank's website. Check for tape over the panel edge. However, again, you don't know if that's the correct one or not. Here is another video for you.
So I'm making this video to show you how to protect yourself from a brand new and really easy way for a bad guy to steal your ATM PIN code with an iPhone, even if you're shielding the keypad so he can't see you put it in. And to show how hard it is even to detect that it happened, I'm going to go into this store and steal somebody else's code. So watch closely to see if you can tell the moment that I actually do it. So she just swiped her ATM card and she's inputting the PIN here, which is the last thing you do before you finish your transaction. And then I step up to make my purchase. So that was it. If you missed it, let me play that last part over again. You'll see as I walk up, my phone just briefly hovers over the keypad. So let me explain what just happened. So what I've got here is a device from a company called FLIR that just came out onto the market, and it clips onto the back of an iPhone and it displays infrared, which basically allows you to see the temperature of things. Here's where it gets interesting. 30 seconds ago, I was sitting on this couch. You probably can't tell where, but how about now? Anytime two objects interact, they will tend toward thermal equilibrium. So they basically try and meet in the middle temperature-wise. And since I'm warmer than the couch, heat flows from my body to the spot on the couch where I'm sitting. So this leaves behind a thermal signature because it'll take a little time for that spot on the couch to cool back down and reach thermal equilibrium once again with the air. Likewise, if I set my warm hand on the cold wall, afterwards my hand is slightly colder, but the wall is slightly warmer where I touched it. And as you probably guessed by now, your fingers leave a thermal signature when you type your PIN code into a debit card machine like this. And as you can see, in this case, the PIN code was 12345.
12345? Yes! That's amazing! I got the same combination on my luggage!
And it gets worse, because since the heat signature fades with time, the bad guy can figure out the order in which the keys were pressed, because the hottest button is likely the one that was pressed last, and the dimmest button is likely the one that was pressed first. So after doing some digging around on this, I was able to find a paper that was published about this method by some researchers at UCSD several years ago. According to their data, they could guess the right PIN code numbers 80% of the time if the image was taken right after. And if the image was taken a full 1 minute later, they still had a 50-50 chance of getting the numbers right. The scary thing is back then, infrared cameras cost $10,000, and it would be really hard to discreetly sneak something of this size into the store. Now, an infrared camera looks like an iPhone case. They're a couple $100, and you can get them at any Apple store. However, there are two pieces of good news here. The first is that this won't work on all keypads. For example, metal keypads reflect IR like a mirror, plus they're highly thermally conductive, which dissipates the heat quickly, which doesn't allow for a thermal signature to even be left behind. However, I still found plenty examples of rubber and plastic buttons in my area that definitely left behind a thermal signature. Not to mention the other applications beyond PIN codes, such as door entry systems. The second, and this is the real point of this video, is that it is really easy to defend against this by simply resting your fingers on other other buttons as you type in your code. As you can see here, this simple precaution makes a meaningless thermal signature. So spread the word, because it doesn't take any extra effort or time, and it makes this potential threat a complete non-issue. Oh, and finally, if you are part of the 11% of the population whose PIN code actually is 12345, consider this sage advice.
Change the combination on my luggage. Yes, sir. Ah!
This was an article from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. They're warning drivers about credit card skimmers. So this is a very, very widespread issue, and it does concern us as far as ID theft. So what consumers can do to avoid skimmers at gas stations: pay in cash inside the store to ensure the credit card information stays safe. Check to make sure the gas pump dispenser cabinet is closed and has not been tampered with. Many stations are now putting a piece of security tape over the cabinet to ensure that it's not been opened by an unauthorized individual. Try to use a gas pump closer to the front of the store. These often place skimmers at the gas pumps further from the store, so they're not noticed as quickly, and they may not be noticed when they're putting the skimmers in. Use a credit card instead of a debit card. Credit cards have better fraud protection, and the money is not deducted immediately from your account. If you're using a debit card at the pump, choose to run it as a credit card instead of a PIN number in. That way the PIN number is safe. And then monitor your bank accounts regularly to spot any unauthorized charges. Okay, here's what consumers can do to avoid skimmers at gas stations. Consumers who suspect their credit card number has been compromised should report it immediately to authorities and their credit card company. Consumers who believe fraud has taken place can contact the department's Consumer Protection and Information Hotline. That's in Florida, and the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Okay, here's an article that happened at a gas station that I frequented back in that time frame, and I was concerned that that maybe my number was stolen. It turned out it didn't, but American Express identified about $125,000 worth of fraudulent charges at Target was related to this case alone. Discovered identified about $30,000. So in one instance, the bad guys get a lot of money until it's noticed, and sometimes they get caught as well. Now, there is a new law that went into effect October 1st in I believe Florida, maybe in the U.S., I don't recall, that now the credit card companies, and I think it's the U.S., the credit card companies need to have a credit card that has an EMV chip in it. And a lot of you probably have that, have received updated credit cards, or the next one you get will have that chip. That's the one at the top. And they businesses are required to start making available the equipment to use those starting October 1st as well. The RFID has a different logo. It does have a chip, but it has a logo that you can see at the bottom on this screen on that Visa card, and they are different. The ones with the RFID can be read from pieces of equipment that can be close to you. So you see a lot of times on infomercials, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit, that you can get special pieces of envelopes to put your cards in. The EMV chip, by the way, EMV stands for Europay, MasterCard, and Visa, and they're the ones that put together this plan, is a small gold chip found in many credit cards, and it's often referred to as the EMV chip. Cards containing this chip are chip and signature and chip and pin or smart cards. The new EMV refers to the three originators which I just mentioned and is now a global standard for credit card security. The U.S. just getting started with it. A lot of European countries are already using it. Now, what's the difference between the RFID and the EMV? Late night infomercials hawk the aluminum wallets and gadgets that claim to block thieves from zapping your account, which I mentioned, right from your pocket or your purse. You don't need those to protect your card information as EMV. Unlike the RFID cards, the EMV chips are contactless credit cards and work only in very short range. So they can be placed right next to a reader, or usually you insert it in the reader, where the RFID, you can be quite a ways away from it and it'll read it, or somebody can have a reader and walk by you and pick up the information off of your card. So RFID is not being used now, but you might want to check your credit card and make sure that it doesn't have let me go back to the logo that's on the bottom. If it's got that logo, it's RFID, and you do want to protect yourself. Okay, even if a thief managed to nab your card's contents with a suitcase-sized mobile scanner, he or she would only have access to its raw codes, not your actual account details with the EMV. Trying to use a copied code would result in a declined transaction and a fraud investigation from your card issuer. So the EMVs are somewhat more secure than just the magnetic strip that's on the back of your card. However, just this past week, and I'm going to show you the article that has the date of this past week, by October 2015, many U.S. banks will have replaced hundreds of millions of transactional credit card and debit cards, which rely on the magnetic strips. Their new ones are going to have the microchip. Now, they're going to have both. So you still have that magnetic strip with all your information on it as well. So eventually those will be phased out, but right now most stores will have readers that can do either one. So you're still not totally protected. Don't feel overly safe. Guard yourself with what you do. And then the bad guys do get caught. There's what a hand skimmer looks like. You can freeze your credit and do so. Check your state laws. I've only got a couple of minutes. I want to get through all of this. Online shopping tips, shop where you feel safe. Look for the padlock. In other words, that it's a secure site. Don't shop at stores you aren't familiar with. Don't use debit cards for online shopping. Use credit cards. If you have to use a virtual credit card, the Bank of America uses something called Shop Safe. Check into it. You can have a temporary credit card number just for that transaction, and it's tied to your own. There's another company that does the same kind of thing. Photocopiers have hard drives in them because they, when you scan something on a photocopier, it creates a document and then prints from the document. So be careful when you take your tax documents to Staples and so on. You ask them where and how they dispose of their machines if something happens to them. Data breaches to health insurance. People who die, people get a hold of their information and create social security numbers and actually use their identity even after they're dead. And then there's children ID theft, and there's a whole bunch of scams. I'm not going to go into all of these, and I don't think I'm going to have time for this video. Some prevention tips. I am going to run this video, and this should kind of get us to the end. Watch the little boy. Is this going to work? And it doesn't seem to be working. Well, there it goes. Okay, let's go. Yeah, notice that one fellow's looking at a book. The other one's got a phone in his hand, an iPhone, and watch what happens from the left side of the screen. Somebody grabs it and runs out of the store. By the time anybody reacts, it's long gone, and this is how it was cased. The person walked down the street, looked in the window, saw the kid with the phone, goes in, nonchalantly grabs it and runs. So giving your kid something to do while you're sitting at a table at a restaurant, especially if you're by the door, or a takeout restaurant like that this was, that phone with all of your prized information can disappear very quickly. Okay, make sure your PIN numbers can't be observed by anybody. Never leave receipts at a bank machine. Memorize your Social Security number and all passwords. Don't record them on any cards or in your wallet or purse. Remove your mail from your mailbox. Deposit outgoing mail in post collection boxes. Don't have, if you've got an outside mailbox, don't leave it in that one. Contact your creditor or service provider if you don't get bills that you're expecting. Never put your credit card or financial information number on a postcard. Watch promotional solicitations. And on the internet, use caution when disclosing your checking account information. Don't email your personal data because it's not secure. Email is not secure. Be very careful when giving information to other websites. And don't give out your checking account information. And every transaction is over a secure. Make sure it is. And dispose of, have a secondary or disposable online identity that you can use for free email accounts and so on. If you are a victim, there's a lot of steps to be taken. We don't have time, and I think maybe some of these other sessions today will kind of explain some things to do if you are a victim. But a final word is just think. Do the things that you need to, but think before you do them. Don't click on buttons and don't say, is this something that I need to be careful of? And with that, if there's any questions, I'm not sure if we have any time. That's up to the moderator, but that's my presentation, and I hope you learned something from it. David, are there any questions?
Looking, we have two. Something about medical ID theft.
Yeah, it's something that's mostly in your doctor's offices and so on. And I have read some articles about giving your Social Security number when a lot of times they say when they ask for that at your doctor's office, you can refuse to do that. You can still prove who you are. So some of them will say we can't do it without it, but other ones will understand your concerns.
Okay. And I think we got time for one last question, and it's about password manager programs.
Okay.
No, it says, what about password manager programs?
Okay, they're very good. I use one called eWallet from a company called Ilium, but there's 2 or 3 other ones who are supporting APCUG, and check the APCUG site for information about them. One's something pass, and the other one is, off the top of my head, I can't think of them.
Sticky password.
Yeah, sticky password, and then there was a RoboForm was the other one. Very good. They keep track of it, and you can have them on several types of equipment and sync them so you have the same information wherever you are, and just use an extremely long and complicated password to get into those, and don't leave them open on your computer throughout the day. Close them and only open when you need them.